Given that level of scrutiny, I think I'd even worn a Yankees hat. Okay, maybe not a Yankees hat, but you get the dilemma.
Disaster for Prince Harry in Canada, as his LA Dodgers faux pas sees him booed on stage by furious members of the Commonwealth who think that this dude, who is meant to be representing them, has been nothing but a traitor in recent weeks. And the self-deprecating humour from the lad who used to be a bit of a cheeky chappie just doesn't cut it anymore. As a miserable 40-something. Watch what went down.
Second, the 900,000 watt floodlights shining down on an ever-increasing bald spot. And given that level of scrutiny, I think I'd even worn a Yankees hat. Okay, maybe not a Yankees hat, but you get the dilemma.
And he spent his entire remembrance trip to Canada trying to deal with the hat faux pas, which only happened because his wife dragged him to this baseball match that he knew nothing about to try and promote the launch of her new flop food products. As Hans on X pointed out, so Harry's finally trying to make fun of himself. Probably the first time I've ever seen him do it. He's finally listening. During his speech, he discussed his baldness and said, I wanted to wear a Yankees hat. The crowd started booing him. What a joker. And what's so interesting is that the day before, in a national television interview, Prince Harry had to apologize to the entire country, but it still didn't stop him getting booed. Watch.
I think you'd like to say it all about wearing that LA Dodgers hat last week and getting it hot
LA
water.
Dodgers hatgate. Well, firstly, I would like to apologise to Canada for wearing it. Secondly, I was under duress. There wasn't much choice. I was invited to the LA Dodgers box, or the dugout, by the owner himself, so I was doing what I thought was the polite thing to do. But I'm going to wear this from now on to make sure I don't make any more of those mistakes. But the other piece to this was, as you could probably relate, when you're missing a lot of hair on top and you're sitting under floodlights, you'll take any hat that's available. So, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, I was Blue Jays throughout. Now that I've admitted that, it's going to be really hard for me to return back to Los Angeles. But no, I'm very sorry to the Canadian public. Devastated that the Blue Jays lost, but go Jays.
Oh, Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network. This was mortifying. It overshadowed the entire trip, and still, he was booed on stage.
Disaster for Prince Harry in Canada. On a visit that was supposed to be about remembrance, duty, and veterans, he ended up being booed on stage over a baseball cap. And not just any cap, the LA Dodgers hat that has become a symbol of exactly what has gone wrong with him. He tried to joke about his bald spot, the floodlights, even floated the idea of a Yankees cap, then panicked and backtracked. Instead of charm and laughter, he got jeers. This is the man who once styled himself as the cheeky chappie of the Commonwealth. Now he is the man Commonwealth crowds feel perfectly comfortable mocking. They see what he has become, a performative figure, constantly apologizing, never taking real responsibility, and always somehow making solemn occasions about himself. This wasn't a random pub night. It was tied to remembrance, to veterans, to sacrifice. Yet Harry's big narrative is his hat, his hairline, and how difficult it all is for him. That just doesn't cut it anymore.
Absolutely. And Dan, part of this whole mess is that Harry doesn't understand baseball. And it's like, why are you even talking about this? Why are you apologizing? Why did you do any of this? We know he has other ball caps he could have worn, but his wife wanted them to basically be matchy-matchy. And so it's just sort of obnoxious. And I can't imagine anything more annoying to actual LA Dodgers fans than finding out this guy didn't really care, didn't really know anything, sat there in the hat in these probably free seats that were provided by PR, and just was complete. And then later to the Blue Jays goes, well, I was rooting for you games 5, 6, and 7. I'm like, but what about games 1, 2, and 3? He, I guess, completely forgot about those. Who knows? This guy is just an epic train wreck. it's just a disaster on so many levels. About how he even described it is like he was under duress because he got to go sit in the owner's box by, the third base. I'm like, that's not really duress unless your wife was forcing you to do it, which we all know is the case. And he basically confirms it.
She was.
Okay. I was like, she forced you to wear the hat.
I'm cucked and I'm bald. It's like that's all he has to say. And I mean, look, he was going through that date night with total duress. Mm-hmm. It was all done, Brittany, because things move so fast at the moment in the world of the Sussexes. But remember, she was launching her new Was Never products that day. So she needed to get the headlines. This was how she did it. But again, no thinking about the fact, like, holy crap, next week we're in Canada. Harry needs to have natural allegiance to Commonwealth countries. It just shows you their whole strategy is a mess. But I really feel like he's lost any sense of who he is, because all he can talk about on stage now is his balding head and the pressure his wife puts him under. That's it. There is nothing else left.
And what's really funny, Dan, of course, is that he sort of made a big dig at his brother in his memoir, talking about his brother's going bald. And now he's actually worse.
Balding, wasn't it, Brittany?
Yeah. Something to that effect. And he's actually worse, I think, because Harry's just holding on to these little tufts of hair in the front because the rest of it just looks unbelievably bad. And he's almost worse because he's trying to hold on to his hair, the little he has left, even more than his brother did. And when it comes to even Meghan Markle, the crazy thing about this whole baseball thing is that there's no real Venn diagram where baseball and as ever clients would be like intersecting. Really, that just doesn't exist. It was a terrible way to actually promote her own brand. And either Harry or somebody on the team, nobody got it and just went ahead and did it. And it just, I think, optically looked terrible. They looked terrible being there in the front because it was so obviously for attention. Sydney Sweeney was there too, but she was there in part promoting her upcoming movie, which did flop. But she was there promoting a sports movie. Harry and Meghan were there to support and promote a brand that sells spread. Is like, it just doesn't make any sense. And the hat gate was totally avoidable, and he could have just asked, hey, can I wear a Blue Jays hat? But of course he didn't even think about the optics of Canada, because he admits he only thought about it after people complained. So this guy is just clueless when it comes to any of this. He should have just kept his mouth shut and let it blow over, because that's exactly what it was doing. But no, he had to drag it back up into the spotlight again.
Yeah, I mean, that passage in Spare Brittany, he wrote, I really looked at Willie, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time since we were listening, taking in every detail his familiar scowl, which had always been the norm in his dealings with me. He then added that William's baldness was alarming and more advanced than mine, and that he thought William's resemblance to their mother, Princess Diana, had faded. And so this is a painful moment for Harry, because what we saw happen in Brazil last week, Brittany, was William returned to being a heartthrob. There's sort of been a full circle moment, when he took his socks off and got involved on the volleyball, the beach volleyball pitch. And of course, he has embraced his aging. He's got the beard now, which the late Queen Elizabeth II never allowed him to have. And the mail's writing, William is a heartthrob again. Yet Harry is so clearly uncomfortable with his looks now. So it's quite interesting, isn't it, how even since Spare there has been such a marked change.
Let's be blunt about why Hatgate happened. Harry did not suddenly fall in love with the Dodgers franchise. He was dragged into a carefully staged PR circus. The World Series appearance was never really about sport. It was about Meghan pushing her latest lifestyle and food projects and needing easy headlines. So she wheels out Harry, plants him in the prime seats, sticks the Dodgers cap on his head, and packages the whole thing as a wholesome viral moment. No thought for the fact that within days he is due in Canada, a Commonwealth realm with its own team and its own pride, on a visit wrapped in the language of service and remembrance. When the backlash hit, he scrambled. On Canadian TV, he offered a clumsy apology to an entire country, claiming he was underdressed. that he just took the hat that was available, that he was only trying to be polite, that the cap helped hide his bald patch, that he's now a Blue Jays man. It was excruciating, and it still didn't work. Even after humiliating himself on air, he was booed in person. That told you everything. People are not stupid. They can see that this wasn't an innocent mix-up. It was the logical outcome of a couple whose entire strategy is short-term attention, zero long-term judgment, and a prince who has lost any stable sense of who he is. All he has left publicly is self-pity about his appearance and veiled references to the pressure inside his own marriage. That is not strength. That is not leadership. It is collapse.
There really has. I think Harry is, of course, very self-conscious anymore. And a lot of that will probably come from the fact that his wife has emasculated him so much, I think, that he has no really sense of self, no sense of purpose. He is a backseat passenger in their relationship. She obviously now has as well her new ventures that don't involve him at all. So he very much, I think, is on unstable ground and is very much just insecure. Whereas William is very secure in who he is, the projects he wants to pursue. Obviously, as well, he will be the future king, which I'm sure definitely helps a bit. But Harry could have been very successful as well in the role as Spare. But part of Harry's chip on his shoulder is that he resents his brother for being the heir and being more important than he is. And then you factor in all the stuff with Meghan, and it's just all a disaster. Whereas William, I think some of the attraction, you could say, is just that he seems secure. He was very active in beach volleyball. He was doing very well. And so he is a guy who's secure in who he is, and that is attractive. Whereas Harry is just all over the place, a disaster led around by his wife, and somehow thinks he's still somewhat in charge of his life when we all know that's not the case. So Harry is definitely an absolute train wreck, and I think William did a fantastic job in Brazil last week.
But Brittany, new reporting from Tom Sykes in The Royalist reveals that William was angry, and he was angry for two reasons. And this is like history repeating, Brittany, because it is the diary clashes not just from his younger brother, but also his father, King Charles, and the timing of that investiture for David Beckham. So let me take you through this reporting, Brittany. It's really fascinating. Tom Sykes writes, The Royalist has learned that Prince William was left hurt and angry after his father, of all people, stole the spotlight from him last week, staging a headline-grabbing investiture for David Beckham as William's Earthshot Awards were kicking off in Brazil. For William, who has spent 5 years turning the prize into his signature platform, the timing, even though the investiture was long scheduled, was more than a clash of diaries. It was seen, according to friends, as a deliberate snub. The decision by King Charles to knight Beckham on Tuesday, 14 years after his name was first floated for the honour, was greeted by William's friends with disbelief. Of all weeks, one friend of William's told The Royalist, this was the 1 week he needed the family to be pulling for him. Instead, it felt like they were pulling against him. He was left hurt and angry. The Earthshot Prize, conceived by William to fund climate innovation through 5 $1.3 million grants awarded annually, is the most precise articulation of how he intends to reign: practical, global, and apolitical. This year's ceremony, held in Rio de Janeiro, was meant to signal both his maturity and his father's trust, with William also representing the king at the COP30 environmental conference in Berlin later in the week. But instead of the seamless royal choreography, William envisaged his trip unravelled into a succession of distractions. The family sabotaged it from beginning to end, the William friend said. It was pathetic, like the worst of the bad old days. On the day his plane landed, Prince Harry's team announced a parallel quasi-royal tour of Canada, scheduled miraculously to overlap with William's itinerary. Meghan Markle's PR team then leaked news of her return to acting to The Sun midweek, instantly derailing British coverage of the Earthshot Prize. The irritant of the Sussexes is old and familiar. What stung William more, I am told, was the betrayal from inside the tent. David Beckham had waited 15 years, said a former courtier, and they had to do it this week. When you think of how gracious William had been, paying tribute to his father's work in his speech, it's a slap in the face. I'm afraid Charles still can't bear not to be the centre of attention. If he couldn't be at COP30 himself, then nobody else was allowed to have the moment. The king's allies insist it was a coincidence, without malice. His Majesty is immensely proud of his son's work, a friend of Charles told the Daily Beast. Investitures are scheduled months in advance. One friend of the king, however, did concede that there is an increasingly delicate father-son dynamic, dramatically worsened by William's open contempt for the shambolic way his father handled the ex-Prince Andrew crisis and continues to handle the Harry issue. Since the king's terminal cancer diagnosis, the balance of royal power has shifted. William is now increasingly demanding the right to lead long-term planning, public messaging, and crucially, crisis management. As the friend put it, the change of reign is happening in real time, whether they admit it or not. Charles, however, has no intention of fading into the background. He insists on maintaining a full public schedule, sometimes to the alarm of Camilla and his doctors, and he guards the symbols of kingship, audiences, investitures, the odd glittering photo call as fiercely as ever. Friends say that having waited his whole life for this role, he's not about to start taking instruction from anyone, even his son. The Beckham affair, trivial on its face, is the perfect metaphor. The king, ill but determined, still demands to be the headline act. The heir, already governing, in many people's minds, is trying to build something lasting in the space his father won't vacate. The king sometimes feels he's been airbrushed out of his own legacy, one family friend said. It's not deliberate on William's part, but there's a cold professionalism about him. The message is, the future starts now. Charles finds that almost unbearable. In the Amazon, one of the scripted remarks William delivered was about the duty each generation owes the next. It seems William doesn't think his father has got the message. So Brittany, very deeply reported there from Tom Sykes, and I think fairly, actually, because he presents both sides of the argument. Yes, the Sussexes are just out of control, and I think we can agree that Meghan Markle leaking her return to acting on the day Prince William delivered his speech at the Earthshot Prize, pushing the star-studded Earthshot off the British front pages, was a low blow but completely expected from a woman like that. Likewise, Harry's tour to Canada. Brittany, I can't understand for a single second why the Beckham investiture had to clash with William's big moment in Brazil. I don't get it. And both Buckingham Palace and the Sussexes have used this argument, Brittany, of, but you know, our diaries were planned months in advance. I'm sorry, you've known the date of the Earthshot Prize since long before that. So that is not an excuse, I'm afraid.
While Harry is in Canada apologizing for baseball merch, something far more serious is unfolding in London. King Charles, visibly fragile and emotional as he continues his cancer battle, the Princess of Wales steady at his side, and then Prince George stepping forward at the Festival of Remembrance, placed symbolically in the line next to his mother and grandparents, the heir to the heir, gently but unmistakably introduced. Alongside this new imagery sits Charles's ruthless decision to strip Andrew of his prince title and HRH status with a simple letters patent. No parliamentary drama, no great constitutional crisis. One signature and it's gone. William has watched that. Harry has watched that. And the message is very simple. This mechanism now exists in real time. Use your titles to trash the institution, embarrass the country, treat royal status as a reality TV prop, and those titles can be taken away quickly. Reports from well-connected sources are clear that William no longer recognizes his brother, petulant, vengeful, consumed by grievance and Hollywood validation. The future king wants a slimmed-down, professional monarchy with no rogue satellites. Harry and Meghan's behavior, diary clashes, competitive tours, endless brand building on the back of Sussex hands him every justification he could possibly need. So while Harry stands on a Canadian stage begging for laughs about hats, the real institution is hardening. The transition has started. The patience is gone. The precedent with Andrew is set, and the one person making the case for stripping Harry's status most effectively is Harry himself.
Yes, this whole diary clash issue definitely is a bit concerning, and I can definitely see that there would be tensions between father and son, so William and Charles. And I think this sort of boils down to very much that William is aware maybe of, obviously he's more aware of his father's health situation than we are. And he's starting to get to the point where he's like, I've got a plan for this now. I was thinking maybe I'd get 10 to 20 years maybe to sort of figure things out. But no, it's sort of falling hard and fast. And I think William in many ways wanted to make more strides as the Prince of Wales. And I just don't think that those are going to be the cards that are dealt to him. And so I do think we have definitely very much a battle of wills, because Charles definitely wants to make his mark as king, even though his reign might be quite short. And so he wants to have these moments, because the Beckham news was huge. It did dominate X. Every time I looked through it, it was everywhere. And so it definitely did bump a lot of the coverage off the Earthshot prize. Although I'm not sure in some ways, because there wasn't, let's say, a huge guest at the Earthshot prize. So I don't know how much that really would have competed at the end of the day. And everybody had been waiting for David Beckham to get this honor. But that's also part of the problem, is that everybody was waiting for it. So there was this great anticipation. And it probably could have been moved to a different day, because a normal investiture probably would not take up many lines within the press. But we do have, I think, again, the current and the future battling for supremacy here, and what things are going to look like. And that is going to cause tension, and probably in some ways unnecessary tension, but it's hard to avoid too in this particular situation. And so it's just so unfortunate that this is probably what Charles's reign will be. And hopefully the father and son dynamic can get a little closer, because I think they were closer. I can imagine maybe they've drifted a little bit apart again, but it's sort of the challenge with royalty, is that somebody has to come next, and they're preparing. That's why I'm sort of a fan of voluntary abdication, because that seems to make things flow a bit better, in my personal opinion. But
oh no, Brittany, don't even go there. Don't even go there around me. No, I think he's got to hang on in there. I really do. And I think he will. I have great faith that he will, actually. I think it was something that I just loved so much about the late Queen's reign, that indeed she was able to maintain her duty till the very end. And I think her son will follow in those footsteps. It's interesting, though, Brittany, there have been new reports from Paula Frolic of News Nation about the fury, I guess, that William continues to feel about Harry. And she backs up some of my reporting over the past couple of weeks, which is that what Charles did to Andrew is now inevitably what William will end up doing to Harry. But she goes into a little bit of the reason why and how William sees his own brother today. Watch this.
Hello. So you've been following the royals. Your sources are telling you the Duke and Duchess of Sussex may lose their title. Why? How did this happen?
Well, this happened because Andrew lost the title, and Prince William stood up and took notice at how easy it was. So before, everyone had been saying, oh, you need an act of parliament, all this stuff. And then he just saw his father sign a writ, and he was like, oh, that is how it's done. And this is how it's going to be done in the future. Now, we've all talked about how he wants a slimmed down monarchy. And one of the reasons he does is because there's a big risk for embarrassment, as we again saw with Andrew, with people off doing their things, and especially with Meghan and Harry still attempting, even though they were told not to, 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
And there was even more from Paula Frolic. Brittany, watch this.
According to your sources, the brothers clashed earlier this week. The timing isn't great for Harry.
No, I mean, listen, my sources are saying that William no longer recognizes his brother. He basically says he doesn't know who this kid is. Harry has become petulant. He's become vengeful. He's very angry at all times. And William's just kind of like, hey, who the heck are you? And yes, they do blame Meghan. Now, I don't like to blame one person for another person's actions. Everyone has their own responsibilities. However, they say it's been a marked difference ever since Harry has gotten with Meghan, and he now feels he has to protect her and, defend her at all costs, even when there's bad behavior involved.
Brittany, what did you make of Paula Frolic's reporting?
I mean, I find it to be very accurate, Dan, because we do know that when it comes to William, I just think at this point he is completely and utterly willing to write Harry out of his life. I mean, obviously, if Harry comes on bended knee, post-divorce, something like that, maybe a little bit of the bridge can be mended, but it'll never be the same as it was. And I think William was probably aware more of the petulant, vengeful side of Harry than we probably knew as the public. I think William was probably more aware of that. But to see it twisted and manipulated to such an extent that Harry would go public with so many things and not see anything wrong with it, I'm sure was deeply, deeply hurtful to William. So I believe that either Charles might do it, but it's going to be more likely William who is going to completely strip Harry and Meghan of everything. And I think strip their children as well, places in the line of succession, because the biggest challenge for the British monarchy right now is their rogue royals. We saw Andrew kind of bring the monarchy almost to the precipice. I mean, Parliament was calling to drag through all their documents and everything and financials to try to find more about Andrew. And Harry and Meghan are a different irritant, but one I would argue is more damaging to the brand in many ways because they constantly use these royal titles in unroyal situations and in unroyal ways where it diminishes the brand and what the British are trying to do. And every time they use their titles, they're effectively representing, in a very tenuous way, mind you, the monarchy. And the monarchy represents the British government, the British people. And so you have this situation where William or Charles, they have to act when it comes to Harry and Meghan. You can't just allow them to run wild anymore. And if they do, they need to do it as Harry Windsor and Meghan Markle and nothing else. So we will see when and how that happens, but I imagine that's definitely in the docket.
And Brittany, I want to end with something a little bit fun. Okay, so Kim Kardashian has this new show on Hulu. It is called All's Fair. Have you seen any of it, Brittany?
I have not, but I heard it's awful.
Yeah, I mean, my fiance made me watch it. He's like the biggest Kim Kardashian fan in the world. I was literally sitting there like, is this a spoof? I've never seen worse acting, more unrealistic storylines.
Oh, gosh.
But two of the stars, Naomi Watts, and I believe this is Niecy Nash. I'd never heard of her, if I'm honest, but two of the stars sat down with a leftist media organisation here in the UK and were asked for like a whole load of famous lawyers through the past. Would they want them at the Kim Kardashian law firm? And it's like, yes, 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 yes. Until they mention Rachel Zane and Meghan Markle and massive awkwardness ensues. Watch.
I'm just going to name some famous lawyers, and I'd love to know if you think that they would get a job at your firm or not, okay? Do you want to hire Miranda Hobbs from Sex and the City?
Yes.
She'd fit in?
She'd fit in, yeah.
Elle Woods, Legally Blonde.
Oh, yes.
I sense you might say it's everyone. Erin Brockovich?
Definitely.
Yes.
Annalise Keating?
Oh, Annalise. That's How to Get Away with Murder, Viola.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Ally McBeal? She was a little neurotic.
Yes. Callista Flockhart. Yes, yes.
Meghan Markle, Rachel Zane from Suits. She was paralegal.
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen Suits either.
Brittany. It just, even the lefties, even the woke tards, they don't want to go there anymore.
No, they definitely don't. They're like, okay, yeah, no, probably not the Rachel Zane energy there. Because Rachel Zane was effectively Meghan Markle. She was playing herself because that's the only role she can attempt to play. So I just think that that's a really, really a funny clip. They could pretty much think of everyone and kind of get there and go, yeah, yeah. And then Rachel Zane is like, never seen it.
I know.
I mean, that's a
we
pretty
know
big diss.
what you're saying, and it's the blank face, and it is because every single celebrity in Hollywood has been warned: do not touch this toxicity. It's like you can see the terror behind their eyes. Very, very funny moment. Nice to end with something light, and of course, for all the brilliant royal analysis of monarchies across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to the Royal News Network, RNN. You will find it on YouTube, and of course, Brittany is posting on X as well.
If you want proof of how far they've fallen, look at Hollywood. In a promotional interview for Kim Kardashian's new legal drama, the cast are asked which famous fictional lawyers they'd hire. One after another gets an enthusiastic yes. Elle Woods, Ally McBeal, Erin Brockovich, Annalise Keating. Then comes Rachel Zane, Meghan Markle. Suits. Suddenly, awkward silence. Evasive smiles. Haven't seen that one. Haven't seen Suits. Everyone knows Suits. They just don't want to say Meghan Markle's name on camera. That is how radioactive this brand has become. This is the same industry that once treated them as progressive royalty. Now the calculation is different. Too much baggage, too much drama, too much risk. Even the Kardashians' extended universe knows to step carefully. So line it all up. Harry booed in the Commonwealth over a cap he wore for a stunt. Meghan leveraging him for clumsy PR that backfires internationally. The monarchy showcasing George and tightening its grip with the legal weapon to erase titles now proven. And Hollywood quietly signaling that Rachel Zane is no longer a career flex, but a warning sign. That's not just a rough patch. That is a public unraveling in real time.